Sports for Real again with Coach Hall. Tonight, the FCS semifinals kicks off with perennial power North Dakota State taking on upstart Incarnate Word. And tomorrow, top seed South Dakota State is going to play against Montana. The playoffs has been pretty interesting up to this point. Matter of fact, last week I got a chance to look at Holy Cross taking on number 1 South Dakota State. And I got to tell you, I was impressed with that guy, Sluka. Sluka was running all over the place, and I almost had Holy Cross in position to knock off the Jackrabbits. But in the end, the Jackrabbits just a little bit too strong for them. But while watching that, it made me think about old Jackson State. They got that high-powered defense, and I just couldn't help but thinking that that team would have fit in perfectly in the playoffs. But the way things are set up with the SWAC, the way they do their champions, they really don't have a chance to get to the playoffs. And given the history of the FCS playoffs or 1AA playoffs, you can kind of understand why. Some of the best teams over the years have simply been left out. Why? Because they find every excuse in the world to say that those teams don't belong. Curiously, they usually be HBCUs. Why do I say that? Well, when you had 16 teams, it was easy to justify by looking at strength of schedule that maybe some of those teams didn't belong. And in some cases, they were justified. But when you raise the team level up to 24, now you don't have that same excuse. So when Jackson State was ineligible for the playoffs because of the championship game, well, that left Florida A&M, the 2-loss Florida A&M team, who lost to Division I team North Carolina, and then a week later to the undefeated Jackson State team. Well, according to my records, it looks like they're worthy of going to the playoffs. But what did the NCAA say? They said that because your strength of schedule is so bad, and the fact that you didn't perform well last year, you don't deserve to go to the playoffs this year. Now you tell me, what does last year have to do with this year? How can you say that I can't compete because of what happened last year? There are plenty of teams that make the playoffs this year that got blown out last year. So why are they not unworthy to go to the playoffs? Case in point, the CAA, they had 4 teams go to the playoffs, and every other major conference except for the Patriot League had 2 teams out of their conference go to the playoffs. No HBCUs. Why is that? So when you see Jackson State prefer to go to places like the Celebration Bowl to make a few dollars, and each conference is going to get $1 million for that, you can see why. And you can also understand why most people are split down the middle about whether you should go to the playoffs if you're invited, as opposed to just going to a bowl game. Again, it's a travesty that we couldn't get a chance to see Jackson State put their high-powered defense on the field because they stack up well against those teams that I saw. But again, society and the way things function and the way the NCAA operates, which I have some interesting things to say about them, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. We can't see Jackson State take on these teams. So until things change, you have to watch North Dakota State probably carry off another trophy. Sports for Real.